The second calibration method that you will need to somewhat routinely perform on the analyzer is calibration of the pH electrode. We want to spend a few minutes documenting that process here for you. Again, we're going to see the normal screen of the transmitter. Top line chlorine value, middle line pH value, bottom line temperature. The steps to get through this calibration process are slightly different. When you approach the unit, you want to do your pH calibration, you're going to hit the cal button. Again, first push, nothing happened except it pulled the transmitter out of energy saving mode and activated the backlight. Second push, we see the screen that we saw previously, chlorine and temperature. At this point, you're going to need to push the escape button. And now you see that you have two choices, calibrate chlorine or calibrate pH in a glass top electrode. I will use the jog shuttle button to roll over to pH and highlight it. I'll hit enter and select 2-point calibration. That's the very top option. It says, do you want to start the calibration? Hold turns to active. Again, this means that 420 output that's currently being sent off will clamp into place. We select OK. It gives us some information. There's a I with a circle around it for information. Prompts us to use buffer number 1 that has a 7 pH. Now when you stop the flow through the flow block and start the flow, pardon me, let me back up. Okay, I'm in a good spot. When you start and stop the flow through the flow block, please do it gently. We want to just simply, very easily close the valve that has our sample water coming in. The flow obviously drops off to 0. And we remove the calibration cup from the bottom of the flow block. You can see there's a shallow side of the cup and a deep side. The deep side's used for our pH buffers in the calibration process. You want to clean this cup out as well as you can and dry it out. You also want to dry out the cavity and the tip of the pH electrode. Get the most of the water out of there so you don't poison the pH buffer or dilute it. We're going to use a 7 buffer here. We're going to fill the cup up about 2/3 of the way, and there's actually a little line in there that kind of gives you an indication of how full you need to make it. With the deep side of the cup up, we put it back into the flow block and just tighten it up a couple of threads. Now the pH electrode is immersed in the pH buffer. We hit the OK button. It says waiting for stabilized measured value. The transmitter wants to make sure that the output from the pH electrode is not moving during the calibration process. It immediately has finished calibrating on the 7 buffer, and it now asks for buffer number 2, which is a 4 pH buffer. We want to unscrew the calibration cup, discard our 7 buffer. I like to start a little water flow through the unit at this time. This helps wash the 7 buffer off the pH electrode, and I also use it to rinse off my cup. I'll stop the flow. I want to clean and dry the deep side of the cup. Fill it about 2/3 full with a 4 buffer. And reinstall it about 2 threads. Immersing the pH electrode in the buffer. I now select OK. It says waiting for stabilized measured value. It says, do you want it? It now gives me a little bit of information here. The buffer 1, buffer 2, the new slope and 0 point, and it says, do you want to take over the calibration data for adjustment? I hit OK. It says calibration is finished. Please clean the sensor before immersing. Hit OK again. At this point, before I take it out of the 4 buffer, I like to do something to cross-check the plausibility of the calibration. I'm going to hit the escape key, simply going to hold it down, and I see that my pH electrode is reading a value of 3.97 in a 4 buffer. That's close enough for a pH electrode that's probably several months old. I'll now dump the 4 buffer, start a little bit of water through to rinse it out. The most important thing, make sure that the O-ring that fits on the shallow side of the cup is still on there when you put it back on. I dropped it. Hand tight is all that's required to put the calibration cup back on. Make sure your outlet valve is open. Very gently start your flow back through the block, filling it up with water. Now we verify we have a sample flow. It's not uncommon to have some air bubbles in here after you've done a calibration. This small hand valve on the back is to release that air. I'll open it about 3 or 4 rounds. And then I'll usually just close the outlet valve slightly, which will back up some pressure in the flow block and push the air out. Once I've pushed all the air out, open the outlet valve, hand tighten the air release. Hand tighten only. It has 3 O-rings on it. There's no need to over tighten. That completes the pH calibration.